it's now time to get into the TNA Impact reaction portion of the show. I just need to pull up the deal here, the live results from the Observer. But I gotta be honest, I was kind of nervous about the Tampa tapings whenever I saw it on the list, because hold on, yep, I was kind of nervous because it's a place that they've ran before, and it just didn't look great. And I was like, this is another small venue. It's an old venue. I just didn't think that it would look good. And as the time got closer, Dobby, the Brain Heenan, who is my guy, he goes and does all my, not for me, but he does it for other people too. But he'll actually go and just do ticket sale, information, and kind of like a WrestleTix type of thing, but he does it for TNA. And he said, actually, it looks like they're doing really well. So they should have a full house. I'm like, yeah, but I thought they had a full house last time. They did Florida. Maybe I'm getting Tampa and Fort Lauderdale mixed up, but I was like, it just didn't look good. It kind of looked cheap, low rent. I thought this one looked really good. Honestly, I was surprised at how good everything looked on television. And you guys know me, I'm I like, you got your front row, and then I like the hard cam to be facing bleacher section where the people are ascending up into the up top to the venue. I think that looks so good. And it reminded me of an old, Impact Zone. I think they always need, I cannot stand, when they go to the 2300 arena in Philly now, and I thought that it didn't look too bad this time, is I just thought the camera production was good and all this and that. But I hate just the hard cam facing just a row of seats, and all you can see is the top of everybody's heads, and then it goes into a black abyss of nothingness behind them. I just think that looks bad, aesthetically. But here in Tampa, and they've had some others, obviously Montreal, they got those bleachers where everybody's ascending, and I think that looks so good. That's super into the weeds, but I think it looks great. And I'll be honest, I thought that this episode was much better than the 2 episodes we had in Montreal. I really did. I really liked this episode. There wasn't anything spectacular on it. I just thought everything was paced well. Everything flowed well. I thought the promo segments were good. I thought all the matches were pretty good. I was even surprised by one match that I assumed would not be good, and it turned out to be very good, even with a fucked up finish. But that was really the only one of the night. So I felt like they balanced it out. There was no booking that was overtly offensive. I thought this was just a damn good 2-hour pro wrestling show. So let's go ahead and get into it. So Steph DeLander, Honeymoon Part 1. So right as the show starts, you see Steph DeLander. She's holding a black and red lingerie for her monster PCO and welcomes us to her honeymoon. So that's going to be part of the theme of the night, is her honeymoon. She's waiting for PCO to get in there because they're going to do the business. He's going to give her the business, I guess, for the honeymoon. All right. So System kicks this week's show off. The jacket. So I'm surprised they're still doing the American gimmick despite the fact that they're heels. They're doing it in Florida, where being pro-American would be a very babyface thing. But I gotta say, I want that jacket. I've been tagging Moose and Ross Foreman to send me that jacket, the System red, white, and blue jacket. I'm a salty old war vet. They should hook me up. But I like the System. They came out. Alicia Edwards begins on the mic. So, do you want to know something? The fans respond, no. She's such a good heel. She says she's so sick and tired of the stupid fans thinking that the System is failing. Big you suck chance. They got heat, man. Then they pass the mic around, but then eventually we get to Moose, who says Santana calls himself a dog. He says next week he'll take that dog out back and give him the old yellow treatment. Why? Because in the end, you always trust in the System. And then their theme hits again. So they have their eyes set on Santana. So we got 4 people trying to get after one guy. I wonder if Santana's going to get some friends eventually. We'll see. And then backstage, Jonathan Gresham is interviewed without his mask on. So I don't know if that gimmick is done completely, but I think, for those of you that say I'm too negative, on some of this stuff. I can be real hard on them. I think it's important when you don't like something, you tell them. Because those of you that just like everything that they do, they're just going to keep feeding you shit. So if all you ever do is say positive things about the company, then it's never going to get any better. You have to have people going, like, telling them this stinks. And the Gresham Great Muta gimmick with the ink coming out of his hands stunk. It never got any pops. Nobody like it. Like, the crowd was dead every time he did it. They used to know what to make of it. It just didn't get over. So if that's it, I'm happy about that. But I think it might be like an alter ego situation where it can make a comeback. If it does, they use it sparingly, it could be fine. But the ink kind of coming out of his hands and then people getting super sick, gotta go. If he wants to do the great, just go full blown Great Muta and spit the ink. Just do that. Like, I know it's like, it's unoriginal. I want the ink coming out of the hands. It doesn't make sense that ink could come out of the hands. That's physically impossible. That's spooky bullshit. Right? Spit the ink into the eyes. And then if that ink could get that person sick, that makes sense. But when you have it just dripping out of your hands because you're an octopus, it's like coming out of your tentacle. It makes no sense. It's like scientifically impossible, dummies. So don't do it. That's why I'm like, for forever, I was against the undead realm. And why? Why was I against the undead realm? Because the things they were doing backstage, they just couldn't do in the ring, right? Rosemary could teleport. She had the power of teleportation. So when she's about to get pinned, she should just teleport out of that situation so that way she doesn't get pinned. You know what I mean? Or she's in the ring and someone's like trying to hit her with a clothesline, she could just disappear and then come back. Like, if you're going by based off of the laws of that's on the TV show, you could just do that. She never did it because it's physically impossible. So if you can't do it in the ring, don't do it backstage. It goes against the laws of the TV show. Now, if you're going to just be full on spooky organization and you're going to be in a televised setup and everything's, it's all pre-taped anyway, and you want to do like a sci-fi TV show, well, I guess you could do that. Lucha Underground did it. And for a little bit, they did it pretty well. But don't do things in the ring that are physically impossible, that just don't make any scientific sense. It's embarrassing. Unless you're going to go all the way with it. And so I'm glad that they just decided to go against it, right? Like, everybody always references The Undertaker. A lot of that stuff sucked. Like him shooting lightning bolts at Kane. Like, maybe when you're 12, it's pretty cool. But when you're like an adult and you have a fully functional brain, it's not that cool. Anyway. So Jay Miller brings up his match against Kushida, which was originally set for Slammiversary. She says she didn't expect to see him without his mask on. He says he hasn't been feeling well for a while. Kushida comes in, doesn't say anything. He looks at Gresham and extends his hand and then walks off. All right. Okay. And then when the show returns, we see the TNA Digital exclusive where Speedball Mike Bailey is with Santino Marella. It is announced that if Bailey doesn't win in a three-way Ultimate X match he's involved in tonight, he will vacate his X Division Championship. Matthew Raywalt said that Speedball is a dummy. And I've never agreed with him more than in that moment. Because Speedball is a dummy. He wants to qualify for his own match. It just makes no damn sense. It just tells me maybe they didn't have enough wrestlers on the card. But they wanted, and so they wanted him, and they're doing the fighting champion thing with him. They're doing the fighting champion thing with Jordan Grace, and they're doing the fighting champion thing with Nick Nemeth. They have 3 champions in the company all doing the same gimmick. Something's got to give. Speedball had no business. Now, the match was good, of course. Speedball, Trent Seven, and Jake something. But it's so stupid that he was qualifying for that X Division match when he's the champion. It's dumb. Like, dumb storytelling. That doesn't mean it wasn't a good match, because it was. But anyway, it said Bailey doesn't win the 3-way. He vacates it. Then we go into the Impact Zone. Trent Seven hits out. Yeah, so we got Trent Seven, Jake something versus Speedball. I thought this was a really good 10-minute match, which would be expected considering all the parties involved. I think all 3 guys are very, very good. I think Trent Seven gets a bad rap because he's just not in shape, but he's still very good in the ring. But we'll go to the finish here. We go with Bailey on his back. Something hits a power bomb on 7. I thought something blew out his quads on that one, or tore his ACL. It looked pretty sick. He was trying, so he had some Bailey on his back, and then while Bailey's on his back, he tries to hit a power bomb on 7, and then his legs gave out from underneath him. Something hits a void on 7 with Bailey at ringside. He goes for the cover, but Bailey breaks it up in time. Bailey hits a super kick and then a tornado kick in the corner. Bailey hits the ultimate weapon off the top on Jake Something for the win. Jake Something, man, he's a big, impressive guy that loses a lot of matches. And I feel like that's what he is in this company, is a big loser, unfortunately. It is what it is, man. And then Tasha Steelz is backstage. They show footage of the Steelz and Giselle Shaw match. This match wasn't good. I don't know why they would show that. It's like the crowd is dead and they got like no chemistry. So then we go to backstage promo with Steelz, and she's boasting over her victory with over Giselle Shaw, where I think she had her foot on the ropes or something. Shaw confronts her. Santino Marella comes in making cop siren sounds. He announces another match between the two with extra referees for next week to make sure there's no extra shenanigans that take place. Steelz makes the Cardi B occur. And then that was it. That was annoying. And then we go backstage with Hammerstone. So TNA Bound for Glory is announced for October 26th. When we return to location is coming. Backstage, Hammerstone approaches Santino Marella, says he wants to end the Ultimate X. Santino, it's not about weight limits, of course. They hit the catchphrase. Got to hit the catchphrase. He tells him he's got it and walks off. Eric Young comes up and tells Hammerstone they have unfinished business. And then we go to Kushida versus Jonathan Gresham. I thought this was a good match. I don't think Tampa agreed with me because it did not seem like they were into it. Yeah, I think they were bored by it. But I thought the match was pretty damn good. So we see Gresham get Kushida's back standing, and he pushes him into the ropes. Once again, Gresham gives Kushida a clean break, and a very technical wrestling battle continues with these two applying holds and hitting reversals and counters. And then a back elbow by Gresham slows Kushida down his hand and takes us into a mid-match commercial break. And then when we show when the show returns, we see Kushida get the hoverboard lock for the submission victory. I don't know what they're doing with Gresham. Yeah, this character change. The guy just keeps losing. I don't know. If you're not outside of like that top 5, they just don't care about you, I guess. But because he tapped out within a second, like as soon as he didn't even try to get out of the hold. He just like as soon as it was applied, he tapped out. I get the feeling that Gresham just does not give a fuck about work because like, he just seems pretty apathetic. I don't know, and maybe that's why he's losing. And then this could I think he does pretty good in his next match, but they probably just like, we're just gonna move on from the Kushida thing. Since you're the only one that didn't show up to work in Montreal. All right. The ABC are shown backstage. They talk about recapturing the tag team titles. As they continue to talk, they're approached by Speedball Bailey. And now he is recruiting them to be in the X Division Ultimate X match. So there you go. That was weird. Like, I don't know, like, why is he doing that? It's like, well, I'm a fighting champion. Okay, so is Nick Nemeth and so is Jordan Grace. Be interesting. And then when the show returns, we see Steph DeLander in a hot tub. And from her honeymoon, she grabs her cell phone to call her monster. She gets his voicemail and she laughs because his voicemail was pretty funny. It was just him screaming. So stupid. Stupid in like kind of a fun way. All right. And then we go back to the Impact Zone and Jordan Grace comes out and she settles in the ring. She's waiting for who answers the call this week. Now, I told you guys this is going to be a big disappointment. If everybody's like, oh, who is going to answer the challenge for Jordan Grace? And then it was just Rosemary. But the crowd was really into Rosemary. And I like Rosemary. I really do. And I thought that she looked great here. I thought this was a really good match. Unfortunately, Trash by Elegance had to get involved. And now it looks like we're going to go to a 3-way at Emergence. And nobody wants that. So like they're having a really good match, and then Trash comes in with her pink kendo stick, and she starts beating them both up, and then it's a double DQ, and now we're definitely going to a 3-way, very likely at Emergence. So, and just because they just don't have any other talent, it's like, and Gail Kim was in an interview earlier this week, and I took some heat for it, but I think it's important to say this stuff. You got to call it like it is. Gail Kim says, "Yeah, we're bringing in some new knockouts." Well, they didn't have any in Tampa. Nobody that they're going to get behind anyway. I think they had some local job squatters, but they're not. I have not heard of any like good young exciting talent that are like earmarked for the company. You hear about males possibly coming in, but they're like there's no Megan Baines or Xia Li on their way. Not that's been rumored. So I think at this point it's all talk, Gail. Show me something. Show me, get out ahead of it. Leak some rumors of your negotiations, right? Do something. Do something to get me to care about your women's division because right now it's at an all-time low. Josh Alexander calls out the world champion, so he finally comes out to tell everybody why he did what he did at Slammiversary. Alexander calls Hendry a meme and says he's not a pro wrestler. He says that he didn't change, the fans did, and this time a few weeks ago they'd be chanting "walking weapon" at him. I gotta say, I thought he looked much better here because during his first appearance, he was wearing like an old baseball shirt and he just looked like a dad at Walmart. Now he's like wearing a walking weapon jersey. He looked more like a star. I still think he needs to upgrade his look a little bit more too. But he had a lot of heat here. He continues to drone on talking about how he was considered the heart and soul of TNA. He calls himself the best pro wrestler walking the planet. Whether you like it or not, you have to get used to him. Alexander calls out TNA World Champion Nick Nemeth. He says Nemeth boasted of being a fighting champion in the face of TNA. He says TNA already has a face and it's Josh Alexander. He says they'll call him the same thing they did in WWE when he's done with them, a transitional champion. Pretty funny because that's true, and I think it's going to be true in this case. Nemeth comes out and doesn't say a word. He simply walks up to him, hits him to get him to drop his guard, and then blasts him with a super kick. He kneels down next to him. The mic says, "I am a fighting champion. So is Speedball. So is Jordan. Thank you, Nick. You want your match? You got it next week right here in Tampa." I heard that match is very excellent. It's very excellent. Here's my only problem with Alexander right now. He's calling out Joe Hendry, and Joe Hendry is not doing anything about it. I know that they're not trying to make Hendry look like a punk, but when someone calls you out like that and said that you turned on Joe Hendry because the fans like got behind him, and you're mentioning his name and he doesn't appear, you're making Hendry look like a punk. Maybe I'm the only person that like gets those kind of details, but you don't do that to the top babyface in your company. Back in the day, you talked some shit in the ring about Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was going to kick your ass. You know what I mean? So, but Hendry is just, too busy being happy-go-lucky, playing around with Gallus in the main event, right? So I know that, like, I can see where they're headed. I think we're going to Josh Alexander versus, and I'm not saying Josh Alexander is going to win the title next week, but I'm saying eventually he's going to get that title from Nemeth, and we're going to go to Bound for Glory. Josh Alexander versus Joe Hendry. I think that's the ultimate destination, right? And it'll be Josh Alexander's fourth Bound for Glory in a row where he's in the main event, and that makes sense to me. And I think that if you want Joe Hendry to have a really good main event match and you got to make him look great, Alexander's the guy. He's the one that's going to get Joe Hendry to have a classic match, more so than Nick Nemeth. I think. I think Josh Alexander is much better than Nick Nemeth. That doesn't mean Nemeth isn't good. He is. Nemeth is a bigger star. But as far as in the ring goes and as far as in the lore of and the culture of this company, Josh Alexander is more important. And then when we return, Morella is shown backstage. He makes it official. Nemeth versus Alexander take place next week. And then Kazarian comes in and says, this is his house. In his house, Daddy eats first. And Santino says, well, when it's his turn, he'll get a shot. But right now, Daddy's not even sitting at the table. Kaz assures Santino he'll get it one way or the other. So I think we're setting up for probably emergence, Nemeth versus Kazarian, which would make sense. Funny enough, Joe Hendry still has not gotten his win back over Kazarian. So for all those people that were like saying I took that too serious, that it's leading to something with Kazarian and Hendry, it's been months and it's still nothing. Joe Hendry's not even mad about it anymore. He got beat it against all odds, cheated, but he got beat. Screwy finish. and then got eliminated first in that battle royal, and they've just moved on. So I was right the entire time. All right. And then we go to another qualifying match. Zach Wentz defeated Casey Navarro and Dante Chen. Dante Chen is from NXT. He is green. He's got some talent though. He's got some size. But he's a bit green. But I thought Zachary Wentz did very good here. And Casey Navarro is a good he's not actually that young, and he's been around a while, but he's a good kind of like unsigned indie talent out there that I thought looked pretty good in the match. So I thought everybody did great. I thought this was pretty fun, like old school X Division match. I'm not going to go into the play-by-play on it. But Zach Wentz got the victory here. So it looks like we'll have a Zach Wentz in the Ultimate X match. And just 2 days after he got beat up by Wesley, who turned on him. Wesley turned heel. So they did talk about it, but you couldn't tell on his face that he was upset that his best friend turned his back on him. So, but it's because it was recorded beforehand. So that is what it's like. What are you going to do? And then we get to excited Steph DeLander and Nightwear laying in bed excited. He's almost here, she says. And as she awaits her new husband, PCO, there's a knock at the door, and it turns out it's Mid Cardona. DeLander wants nothing to do with him, pushes him out. Outside the room, we see PCO being held down. Cardona leans down on his face and tells him to stay away from his property. DeLander then stomps his property, meaning DeLander, and then does a kind of a curb stomp, then stomps the back of his head. And then we go to the main event. It's Joe Hendry defeating Wolfgang from Gallus. Wolfgang's a pretty good wrestler. And I thought this was a pretty good match. This was a very WWE style match. I think Joe Hendry is like auditioning for a role in WWE every time I see him now. But let's go here to the finish. We go. Wolfgang pulls a pad off his arm and grinds and exposes the elbow into the forehead of Hendry. Hendry begins fighting back. He hoists Wolfgang up for delayed suplex. Fans break out in a "We Believe" chant as wildly popular star continues to settle into a comfortable offensive lead. Hendry muscles Wolfgang up and hits an impressive fall-away slam. He gets the "We Will Rock You" clap chant going and looks for the standing ovation. Wolfgang avoids it. Wolfgang looks for the howling swanton off the top, but Hendry avoids that and hits a standing ovation for the victory. Man, Joe Hendry is so over. In spite of losing to Kazarian against all odds and getting eliminated first in NXT's Battle Royal, the guy is just incredibly over right now. And I did hear that a lot of the crowd that was in Tampa were NXT fans, and they were there to see Joe Hendry. So whatever they're doing is working right now. He is the number one star. You got to put the title on him and Bound for Glory. That's all there is to it. This place came unglued when his music hits. Like, go back and watch the entrance, because there's like a little bit of a delay. Like they did it smart. They built some anticipation, and then boom, when you get that first note of the first note of a song, the crowd just goes crazy. Good stuff. And then as the show ends, we see Mike Santana brawling with the system by himself. Tons of security guards break up the brawl as the show goes off the air. So there you go. That was Impact this week. Let me get to the boys in the chat. Let's see what you guys thought of the show, and then we will we'll go ahead and call it a day here. Let's see. Yeah, great timing on being in Florida NXT territory. Yeah, I thought it was a good idea. Billy says solid TNA episode, good matches, angles, and interview segments. I really enjoyed the show. I was actually enjoying the PCO room. I think it's a fun story for television. What it leads to, I don't know, but I think it's a fun story for TV. Billy says, I'm glad they dropped the awful Gresham ink gimmick, but his mask is really cool. I agree with you. I like the mask. So if they do the alter ego, as IO states here, the alter ego, I think they should keep the mask, because I thought the mask was cool. Got to get rid of the ink. I also says, glad they brought Casey Navarro back. Yeah, he comes in every once in a while. He's a pretty good talent. Emergence is 2 days before No Mercy. You just found I didn't know that either. Yeah. And then IO confirms that yes, there were some NXT fans there. Yeah, so there's a couple of guys on Twitter that are TNA fans and said that a lot of people that were there just made the trip down from Orlando. And this is their very first TNA show that they've ever been to, and they were there for Joe Hendry. So Yeah, welcome to the squad, boys. Thank you for being there. Thank you for making a lot of noise. I thought that they were a big part of the reason why this show was so enjoyable. Was the crowd was just super into everything, and then they were mostly into Joe Hendry, the main event star. So I thought this is a very good episode. I'm looking forward to next week. I'm looking forward to Nick Nemeth versus Josh Alexander, and I don't know if it's in the main event, but it's definitely next week. So good stuff. And thank you guys. Thank you to everybody that was in the chat. Thank you for all the Patreon subscribers. I greatly appreciate you. I'm going to I'll get a bunch of clips out for YouTube next week. So until next time, mahalo.